Alright, back again, Luke here, and today what I thought I'd do is show you guys how to repair your joysticks on your N64 or your N64 controllers. If the joystick is loose or broken, I thought today I'd make a tutorial here on how to fix it. Now, the main reason why these things become loose is due to friction, and everyone knows that whether it be metal on metal or plastic on plastic, whatever, if there's no sort of lubrication in between the two, it'll actually cause parts to wear. And that's what happens with the N64 controllers. The joystick just does not have any kind of like lubrication in between the two parts. Over time, it eats away at the bottom bowl, the plastic, and eventually becomes looser and looser because the spring that actually causes tension on this and the bottom part of the bowl, it loses contact, so you can see that the joystick moves around. I've seen quite a few videos before on how to fix this joystick. A lot of them actually said to use tape, which is a very, I mean, it's a temporary fix, it's not permanent, and things will go bad again eventually. But I thought I'd show you guys something that I've been doing here for years, and it's worked out much better, and it's more of a permanent fix. I thought I'll also show you guys how to do some preventative maintenance to kind of avoid this from happening. No matter how good the controller is, there's always a good chance that this will happen. It will eventually happen. It's an inevitable thing. But for the major repairs here, in order to fix this up, the things that you'll need are, you need some sort of tissue, some tape, some kind of grease. It can be white lithium grease, it could be powdered graphite, it could be any kind of grease, just as long as it's not honey or molasses or cooking oil or lotion, anything that's not sticky, basically. You need a file. You'll need a two-part epoxy or some kind of plastic compound, some kind of glue that you can use, a surface where you can mix it, a toothpick, Phillips screwdriver, and some sandpaper here if you need it, as well as, if you have it, a Dremmel tool will work, or you could use just a small fine bit drill, or you could use a knife bit, or anything really sharp. Maybe even a pin or a needle would work, but just something with a very fine bit on the end. For the first part here, what we'll do is we'll take a look at a joystick. This is another joystick that I have, and the joystick's not bad. It's still pretty good, but you'll notice that there's some powder on the outside here. So what you want to do is, on the back of the controller, we'll use this one as an example, there are 7 screws. There's 3 along this side, 3 here, 1 here. There's 2 up here. Those are the ones, so 1, 2, 3. On this side, 3 on this side, 1 here, and 2 up here in the cartridge slot. Once you get these 2 out, you can remove this part, which will expose the back. And some of these controllers, don't be shocked if they really look dirty, because they've probably had a lot of grime and a lot of usage. This is actually one that I bought used, so I still haven't had a chance to clean it. But you'll notice there's a cable here connected on the back. You can remove this board here very easily. It just has 2 clips, and just kind of pull that out of the way, and then it has 1 clip here. It also has 3 screws in the bottom, which you'll want to take out, and then you want to unclip it, which it will just pull out, and just like that. So let's take a look at this one first. Okay, this is one that actually has still a little bit of life left in it. So what we're going to do here is some preventative maintenance. Now, it doesn't matter how well you take care of your controllers, over time, and over the years, without any sort of lubrication in between these parts, you will eventually get this white dust that you can notice around the sides here. And it will happen at some point in time, so if you do have some N64 controllers around you, I would recommend doing this right away. As we can notice on the inside here, you can probably see that there is some residue, and that residue is actually the bottom part of the bowl, the plastic bowl here, being scratched out because of the lack of lubrication. So what we'll do here is, with any kind of cloth, it could be tissue paper or anything, you just want to try and wipe it off, you know, get off all of the residue. And you'll notice that this thing is spring-loaded. There is one gear that pivots on the back here, and that holds the joystick in place. So in order to remove the joystick, you just turn the joystick sideways. I'll show you that in a minute here, and then you can pull this part off. If you're not familiar where the parts go on this, make sure you take a picture of it or some sort of note as to how they go back together, because when you go to put these things back together, sometimes you can put them back together backwards or something like that and go, why does this not work? But alright, once we get this all cleaned up here, we're just going to set that aside. It doesn't have to be super beautifully clean. I mean, just give it enough to where, you know, there's no real powder around here. You could clean up around the top part here if you want to as well, but try and remove as much of it here as possible. Then on our bottom part here, you'll see a small little circuit board. This circuit board will actually pop right out. So you can pop it out just like that. And you'll notice this part just came flying out. But we'll get this cradle here and we'll do the same thing. We'll try and clean it up. Now, depending on the amount of wear that happens on these controllers, you might notice that the back of the cradle here might actually be worn down quite a bit if it's been that condition for a while, or it still may look pretty new. This one actually does not look too bad, so this won't be a difficult fix at all. This will be just a simple preventative measure here to keep this thing working for a little bit longer. Now we'll take out our middle part here. This bowl actually just sits in place. It has 3 prongs here, and you can see exactly where it sits, just like that. Well, we'll take this out here and clean out the inside. Once again, if you want to, you can use compressed air. This is one thing that actually works well. You could use, you know, a Q-tip if you want to clean it out. You could use anything. Just want to try and clear out most of the dust. So as you can see there, it's still got a pretty good finish to it. It doesn't look too scratched up. Now what we're going to do here is, with our grease, we're going to put in a little bit of grease into the bowl. Alright, that should be good enough. Then we are going to put our gear back in, and hopefully remember which way, because like I said before, you probably, when you go to put this thing back together, you might put it in backwards, which will kind of give you a little bit of a shock when you first do it. And like, why does this not go back together so well? And I can't remember if this is the high one or the low one. So put this back in here, just kind of move the grease around a little bit. And what we're also going to do is put a little bit of grease on the inside here, because that is going to be where the other plastic piece fits on. You'll notice here with this plastic piece as well, it has this bowl on the inside here. It has this convex shape to it, and it has a small little tab at the bottom here. This is what rides along the bottom part of the bowl, and this is what rides along the middle part here of this bowl. Let's see if this is the correct way. You'll notice when you go to put it back in though, you'll have to have these somewhat lined up like this. Let's see if we can get this the first shot. Nope, it's backwards. So you'll notice right away it won't fit together very well. Let's switch this around here. And let's move this one, turn this one sideways here. Yep, the other way. Alright, let's try this here. See if this will work. Hopefully. If we can get this thing situated back in there. Ah. Well, one of these ways. But like I said, when you go to put it back together, you might find yourself going, which way does it go? Nonetheless, you will eventually get it, as I will eventually get this. There we go. Okay, so we got it all snapped back together, and now, I mean, this joystick, really, really smooth. And you can feel a big difference with this one. You might also, when you have this top part off, you might want to try and go around this area here and clean it up. You could also use a Q-tip for this area as well. But this is one way to prevent the joystick from getting any worse than it was before. So, cleaned up a little bit. You can hear it. I mean, and it goes back to the middle very quickly. So that's the preventative measure in order to get this thing back to, you know, a really comfortable state. With the controller, however, if you have one that's kind of gotten too far or gone really bad here, this one's not too bad still. It does wobble a little bit, but it's still not as bad as some of the other ones I've seen. What we're going to do here is a major repair. And same thing we're going to do with this. We're going to take this apart. And let's see if we can get this one apart easily. Okay. Yeah, you can see the huge difference here between the amount of powder in this one and the last one. We're going to take this part off here and put that aside. Some remnants here. And take this part out as well, and take out the bowl here. Now take a look at that. You'll find there's a lot of powder on the inside here, and the bowl is definitely being worn down. But, you know, depending on how long you let something like this go will definitely depend on the amount of glue that you're going to need in order to repair it. So, as you can see here, the bottom of the bowl, you can almost see that there's a little hole that's starting to poke through. What we're going to do here is, like I had mentioned before, it's something that has worked for me in the past, and it's worked as a permanent fix, and it works very, very well. With your fulcrum here, with your plastic piece, what you want to do is take a look at it, and, you know, just judging by your own eyesight, look at how much of a gap there is on the inside there. This gap is going to determine how much glue that you need. It might be kind of hard to see through the camera, but you can see there's just a really slight gap in this. So this isn't going to need very much at all. In some cases you might notice a huge gap at the bottom. But what we're going to do here is, first, you'll notice the bottom of our bowl here. What we're going to do is, you'll see these 3 prongs. We're going to remove this first one, or this one in the middle. So we'll get our Dremel tool out here. Normally you can use a sander style Dremel tool. Anything is okay. Just something that you can use to remove the middle part. And I'll tell you the reason here why we're removing it. Well, I'll show you in a few seconds. Alright? If you notice, that middle piece is gone now. What we're going to do is we're going to punch a hole through the bottom of this bowl. Now, the main reason why we're going to punch a hole through this is because we're going to put some glue on the inside of this bowl here. And in order for the glue to stay in place, we don't want the glue to break loose. We actually want to create kind of a little bit of a stub here that will allow the glue to kind of flow through here and set like this. So it actually creates kind of pretty much the same as this here, this plastic piece. It keeps it from moving. So, once again, we'll get our Dremel tool, and see the small hole there. It doesn't take much. You can see that there's a hole through there. And we'll turn this off. Now we have a small little pilot hole in the bottom. What you want to do is try and remove any of the excess debris around the hole here, so there's no extra shavings. I don't recommend using a hot knife or anything like that, because what it'll do is it'll cause the plastic to bubble upwards, and that's something that you do not want. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to, with our tape, we're going to take a piece of this tape, and it's just a small piece. Doesn't have to be very big at all. And we're going to put this on the back here. And the reason for doing this is we don't want any of the glue to seep out of the bottom. We just want it to kind of stick in place, and with our pilot hole here, it'll give it a chance to set in right there. From here, what we'll do is get our glue. Now, you want to get some sort of glue that actually has a plastic. It says that it's used for plastic, or something that sets up hard. You don't want anything that's too soft, because if you get something that's too soft, you're actually going to run into some trouble. It'll be too soft, and when you go to put pressure on it, it's just going to dip in. One other thing that I forgot to mention is, due to the shape of this thing, and you know, if you look at it, we want this glue to set flat. We don't want this glue to set on an angle. So if you put the glue in the bowl and you set it down like this, what you're going to have is the glue is going to seep to one side, and you're going to have an unbalanced job here, which is just going to cause you some pain. So one other thing that you're going to want to need, or want to get, is a either a cardboard box that has a corner on it. You could use a desk, you could use a PC table, you can use anything that has a triangle-shaped corner on it. And what we're going to do here is we'll actually take our box, and as you can see here, we're going to put this on the corner, just like this. So I'll put the camera down here for a second. And I'm going to put a couple of pieces of tape on here to keep this in place. Now, it doesn't have to be, you know, perfectly square. You can try your best to get it as flat as possible. You know, you really don't want to have it on a huge angle, but don't worry, you know, you don't have to get your level out and make sure it's completely 100% level. For the most part, just make sure that it is, you know, it looks pretty stable, like so. Okay, so we have our piece, it's in place. What we're going to do now is we're going to mix up our epoxy. And you want to get a two-part mix, like I said, JB Weld or some sort of plastic compound. You do not need a lot of this. One thing that's good about this repair here is it's kind of foolproof. If you do, for example, make a mistake and you use too much glue, you can always pop the glue out from the bottom from our pilot hole that we made. Or you can sand it out, or you can, you know, sand it down. You can build it up. It really, it is foolproof. You don't have to worry about not, you know, making any mistakes here with the glue. But we have our two-part compound here for the glue. We're going to mix this thoroughly. And what I recommend doing is going back and forth, you know, go horizontally, go vertically. You can mix it in a circle, but by going horizontally and vertically, what you'll do is you'll cause it to kind of mix better. And we're just using the very end of our Q-tip here, or Q-tip end or toothpick end. And you can scoop up, you know, you don't need a lot, just get a little bit. And make sure that you do this while it's still malleable, or while it's still flexible. Alright? And you'll notice here, I'm just putting a little bit in the bowl. Now, you can probably see that right there. While this is still flexible, what it's going to do is it's going to create a natural concave kind of texture here. And that's what we want. We want a concave texture. What you don't want to do is you don't want to build this up. So you don't want to make it convex to where it's actually pointing outward. You want it to kind of sink down a little bit. If by any chance it does rise up a little, that's not a problem, because you can always use your Dremel tool, or you can use a piece of sandpaper to file it down. While that hardens, what you want to do is also take a look at your cages here. Now, the cage that we had before, like I said, depending on the amount of wear, you might notice that this thing is pretty worn down. I mean, it might be eaten up quite a bit, or it still might have, you know, a pretty good texture to it. If it still does look good, don't worry about it too much. But if it is eaten up, well, that's not a big deal. You just try and smooth it down with a piece of fine sandpaper, you know, just go over it, and make sure that you try and keep consistency. You know, don't leave a big flat spot in the middle and then the round parts on the other side. You know, try and make it rounded for the most part. And the foolproof part of this repair is this. If you look at the joystick itself, you'll notice that there's a small little ball on the end here. And this is what causes it to bevel. And if, for example, this rounded part is gone from, just too much wear and tear, what you can do is use a file or a piece of sandpaper, and you can file this part down. You can file it into like a triangle shape, and that'll bring back that middle bevel part. This also works really well is if you put too much glue in the middle of that bowl, and you realize that when you put it back together, it's too tight. You can file this down, and you can file it around the edges and make this actually thinner. These are pretty strong parts here, for the most part. The plastic bowl is the least of the least strongest of the parts. So you'll find that the bowl will actually give a lot more than this plastic joystick will. So don't feel worried if you take too much off of here, because that's the beauty of the glue in the bowl, is that if there's too much off of here and there's too much space that you've made a mistake, you can put a little bit more glue in the bowl and you can create that tension again. What happens is the bottom of the bowl here actually causes the joystick to move up. And by moving up, this creates a lot of pressure here on this spring, which is where you get your strong joystick feel. As the bowl weakens, so does the spring tension here, and what you wind up getting is this. You have your spring tension like this, but the bowl isn't causing the joystick to come up and create more tension on it, so you get a loose joystick. But if you do take it apart here, and like I said, once again, if you do wind up making a mistake and you put too much glue in the bottom of the bowl, it's not a big deal. The one part that you'll just need to file down is you'll need to file down the end of the joystick here at the bottom. And in some cases, what you might have to do is file down the cage. Now, you can make this quite thin, but make sure you don't make it any thinner than the outer rim here. You can see it's about this big. You can file down this overlap here and make it somewhat flat along with this, but don't go too far or else it'll snap right off. But it's definitely an option if you find that this part here is not pivoting quite right, and inside the bowl itself the joystick isn't moving quite right. You can either file down the inside of the bowl or sand it down, or you can sand down the joystick. But one other important point, or one other important thing to remember is, let this set for as long as the glue needs. What I mean by that is, if this glue takes 3 hours to set, make sure you let it sit for 3 hours. Make sure not to touch this, don't bump it, and whatever you do, don't try and go back over it and smooth it out with a Q-tip or with a toothpick, because what you'll wind up doing is causing a ripple in the glue, and that'll actually cause a divot, and when you go to use your joystick you'll feel like a thud or a clump, kind of like going over a pothole. Just let it set. If it seems like it's too high up, then you can sand it down. If it seems like it's too low, you can always build it up again. Once you get everything glued up and it's pretty much solid again, you can always tell probably by this glue is actually pretty quick. But, go over to your workplace where you mixed your glue up and check to see how it is. If it's solid, then you know that the glue in the bottom of that bowl is also solid, so you won't have to worry about it. Once it's solid, this is still actually quite tacky, so this is something where you don't want to really do it. And in this case, I might have added a little bit too much. I'm not sure. Yeah. You can probably see there. There's a little bit too much on the inside of this bowl here. And I'm not going to try and press down on it too much, but what I'll probably wind up doing with this is, I'll either try and sand it down a little bit on the inside there, to try and make it a little bit smoother, or, as I had mentioned before, I'll try and take just a little bit off of the bottom of this cage here. Smooth it out just a little bit more so it'll move back and forth here. And because it's built up so much, what I might do is also take a little bit off of the bottom of this and kind of bevel it as well. So when I put them all back together, everything should be completely, you know, on end. It should stand really well, like a normal joystick. And when I move it left and right and up and down, it should move back and forth freely. If you do get to this point and it does work out really well, what I finally recommend doing for this is, once again, you want to add a little bit of grease. And this grease is not only going to help protect the glue that's in the bottom, but it's also going to help protect the rest of the joystick and the other cage parts for a long time to come as you use the joystick. But I know this is kind of a bit of a rough tutorial here, but for the most part, hopefully you can understand what I do in order to repair these joysticks. It's not something that's difficult. I'm not sure if I mentioned this part here, but the main reason why we removed that is because with the original bottom part of that, the plastic white part here for the joystick, the bottom bowl, it normally has this hole in the bottom, and that hole is what sets in place here. If you leave this in the bottom and you try and put this back down, it's not going to sit properly because we've used this hole after drilling it for our glue pilot hole. So that's why you remove this one here. The other two will keep this in place because of the two posts here on the side. So it'll still sit in place and it won't move. Still works really well. But yeah, just thought I'd make a bit of a more thorough, in my opinion, a permanent fix for the Nintendo 64 joystick controller. It does not take much. Like I had mentioned before, it is pretty much foolproof, and it will last a lot longer than tape. But yeah, that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon, so thanks for watching.